Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 25 of Scouting Session. I'm Jérôme Bérubé, and as always, I'm joined by my good friend Brad Allen. Brad, how's it going?
It's going well, Jerome. Scouting. We're scouting.
Oh,
Trying to figure out
we are,
if
we
any of
are.
this playoff situation here in the OHL, Q, Dub, trying to see what holds, what doesn't. Do we have any players too high, too low? Is there any player, any dark horse, or like, whoa, that's like 30 spots too low or too high? That's what we got to figure out right now. So, and obviously prepping for the U18s here. U18s is coming quick.
Yeah, yeah. You and I watched a lot of goalies this week. I think the Q goalies are giving us concussion. I think because they're really hard to they're really hard to figure out. So that's was a big. We watch a lot of those guys this week. There's quite a few this year, so it's very not a normal draft year because usually there's not that many Q goalies to really watch. So this year is pretty interesting, and I think the Q goalies are actually making the Q class a bit better because the rest of the class in the Q is not that strong, except the top three guys. So anyway, it's pretty interesting. So this week we're gonna answer some questions, Brad. We got a few questions that we have received over the last few weeks, even some questions like a month ago. So we're gonna answer those. So just so you guys know, this is our last episode, not ever. We're coming back in June, but we're gonna take a somewhat of like a month and a half off. We're going to finish the book that we have to do, the final rankings. There's a lot of scouting to do. And anyway, there's a bunch of stuff happening. Also, I'm trying to buy a house. It's a bit of a chaotic time here. So it's a bit hard to, really focus on the podcast every week. So, but we're going to be back in June. We're gonna have a lot of content in June with the final rankings. If you guys have seen our videos last year we did in June, like it's gonna be like that, but probably a bit even more. There's also been a discussion of maybe doing a live stream during the draft. We'll see about that, but it could be something we do. So we'll talk about that if it actually can work out for us. So yeah, so let's get to some of the question, Brad, that we have received. The first question came on Twitter from Rabil Rehman. He's a Flyers fan, so the question is, you guys were the highest on Luchanko last year. A year later, has your projection changed on him at all? Flyers fans are concerned that his point per game didn't go up significantly compared to last year. Much appreciated. Um, no, I don't think a projection changed. I think we still see him as the player we saw last year. Uh, the point per game, question. It's not much of a big deal. I think Guelph once again this year Guelph doesn't have much to play with him, and he's never going to be a gifted shooter or a finisher. Like his main asset offensively will be his playmaking. And when you're a playmaker and you don't have much good players to play with, it's tough to really, rack up all the assists. Put him in. Mark Edwards will be proud of that, but put him in London, and his stats would be a lot better than what we saw this year. They're not bad, but if you put him on the London roster and he plays 5-on-5 with or power play with Casper Aaltonen, like I could see that duo work really well. One is a lethal shooter and one is a really great passer, so not too worried about it. Like I think if everything goes right, he's a number 2 center, and if the offense doesn't translate as much, I mean, he becomes like an amazing third line checking center for the Flyers. So I'm not too worried about him. I wish they use him better at the U20. They didn't really, almost felt like they didn't know what they had in him. Anyway, Brad, maybe a few words on the first question.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So the big thing with the production is, as Jerome mentions, Guelph. Guelph is not a good team. And so it's one of those situations where it's going to be very difficult for him to make, big 20, 30-point jumps. The other aspect I'll say is that I think we did underestimate how physically developed he already was, given the fact that he was young for last year's class. So we thought that there would be considerably more growth rate than there has been. I'll say that's the one area where I'm slightly concerned. At the combine, he did very well. He was already exceptional in terms of the measurements needed at the combine. And that surprised me. I didn't realize the kid was already so physically developed. So I was hoping for a bigger jump despite his combine numbers. That never really materialized. I know for Flyer fans, it's like, you're picking, what was he, 12, 13, Jerome, that you went on draft day. You want more than a third line center. This is the thing. So hindsight, I'll always talk about it. It's way more powerful than people think. You have to understand that Philadelphia had to give Cam York and Jamie Drysdale their chance. In their minds, I'm sure what they were thinking was, listen, we have a lot of young developing defensemen. We absolutely need a top 9 center. And they went that route thinking that Drysdale and York could hold. That hasn't materialized to the degree I'm sure they wish it had this past season. I'm sure it's one of the reasons that led to Torts being let go is the fact that Drysdale and York have had a lot of difficulty this season. So it's difficult because when you're drafting that high, if you're drafting top 15, you're after two things in the draft. It's a top 9 center or a top 4 defenseman. Those are your priorities. Obviously, there's anomalies. If you have like the best goalie prospect ever, like Askarov, he'll jump up there in the top 15. But those are rare occurrences. So that's really what you're after on draft day. The one thing I'll say about Luchanko that I think is being understated is that there's basically no chance he busts. There are going to be a lot of players that don't make it. Okay? And some of them are more highly touted than him right now. Some of them were drafted higher than him right now. He will play. He will absolutely play, and he'll be a very serviceable center who does some spectacular things occasionally and probably puts up 40, 50 points. So it's one of those situations where I'm sure you wish he was top 6, and I could guarantee you that, but you're getting a center. He's a fantastic player. He's just not he's not Matvei Michkov production-wise. They can't all be like that.
Yeah, I don't think, Zeev Buium was like the guy that a lot of Flyers fans wanted, and obviously we ranked him 3rd overall, so he would have been our pick at that position. But the Flyers went with Luchanko, so we'll see what happens in the future for him. He's playing in the AHL right now in the playoffs, so that's a good test for him.
Also, just before to cut you off, just before that situation is a perfect example of what I discussed when I say BPA is a myth. That there is no BPA when you get past like the top couple picks. It does not exist. Team needs are always how teams will draft. They thought the defense was covered in the top 4. Developmentally, they thought Drysdale and York could get there, so they skipped on Buium. They went throughout Luchanko because they absolutely needed a center. There's just a long list of perfect example. BPA out the window.
Yeah. We'll see about that in the future if that works out for them. Not too sold on those defensemen, and I think Buium is pretty special, but maybe there's other reason why they didn't go that direction. So anyway, the second question from Twitter, got it from Chris. Looking back at your 2024 final rankings, we're almost a year later now. Any change would you like to make it? Yes. Yes, all the time.
Yep.
The perfect list does not exist, folks. So Brad, maybe you can start. Maybe some stuff you would like redo, knowing what you know now.
Oh yeah. So the big one for me is Hudson. Cole Hudson moved up a lot on my list over and over. Loved him. By the end of the season, I really thought he showed a tremendous development curve. I thought it was a phenomenal pick by Washington. And I had him inside the top 32. I had him as high as 20 something, like mid-20s. And then I dropped him back down, and it was all just due to recency bias annihilated me last year. I got caught in a vacuum, and I just went and pushed and pushed and pushed. And in this industry, one thing I'll tell all you young scouts, if you really want to make sure your list is as accurate and crisp and clean as it can be, give yourself a bit of breathing room at the end of the season so that recency bias can't annihilate you. That's what happened to me. I got killed with Hudson on the bias, recency bias. Artamonov, we watched so much Artamonov at the beginning portions of the season, and then I felt like we didn't watch him enough by the end of the year. So he kept getting pushed back. He got pushed back way too far. There's other examples too, even ones we got right, where I'm like, oh, I knew it. Why didn't I just keep pushing him higher? Kieron Walton, I smashed the table, flipped the table, threw the table, telling anybody who listened, Kieron Walton is the most underrated player in the draft. I had him top 45. That wasn't high enough. Why didn't I just put him in the top 32? Why didn't I just suck it up and say he's going to do it? It's one of those situations where, well, you're against basically the whole industry. Nobody had him top 32. So I would, you have to bet on yourself sometimes. So that's one I wish I pushed further. The other would be Jacob Battaglia and Kevin He. So Kevin He and Kieron Walton, we had the highest in the entire industry. Don't get me wrong, we make mistakes and we'll talk about more, but those two we got right. Kevin He and Kieron Walton we knew would be something. And I wish I pushed more higher, both higher. And the other was Jacob Battaglia, huge fan, and kind of like Artamonov. I stopped watching him as much by the end of the season. I think recency bias crept up again with other players, and I started moving him back a bit too far. But off the top, and Leon Mugli, I was hoping for a bigger offensive spike. Hasn't come. Didn't look good at the U20s. Went to bat for him, and that hasn't worked out for me thus far. And the goalies, the changes I messed up, made some huge mistakes with recency biases towards the Russians, and that's on me because we could have had a pretty special list if I had given myself some breathing room, we calmed down. But again, you got to give yourself a bit of time. I'll discuss that further in our final goalie rankings. I'll break down what happened last year, and then we'll do a real big deep dive on this year's class where I've attempted to make up for what happened with my recency biases last season. What about yourself, Jerome? What would you change?
I would say one mistake I think we made, and I don't know if you agree, but I feel like we took too much of a risk with Lindstrom at number 2 because of his health. I feel like we should have put more weight into, like we always say, imagine you're at the draft table for a team, or you like the injuries wasn't concerned, but we didn't when we ranked him, second. We didn't think he was not going to play at all, the upcoming season. So that was a bit tricky, and we have done it in the past where we, it's a back injury, a guy who plays a really physical game. That's a bit of a concern. And
well, I mean, that's in real time. We have to do it with Bear and McQueen, right? Yeah. We're doing it again right now. So yeah, I think that's tricky, Jerome, because like if you look at let's put it this way, what if he has a dominant season next year in college? Would you right? Would it flip back?
Yeah, I know. It's right? A tough one. See. But
that's a tough one.
It's a tough one. But still, like it's a tricky one. Other guys, I'm looking at the list here. Well, Michael Hage, I guess, will be one. We probably should have him higher. He had a good season at Michigan, like probably better in the first half than in the second half, but where we ranked him was pretty much almost like we didn't have much time for him. Same thing for Conley that Vegas took in the first round. But I'm probably higher on age than Conley at this point. But still, we had those two guys. Nobody had those guys as low as us. So
yeah,
that would be 2. I would agree with you on Mugli. I was a big fan of him. We had him 33rd. It's not really working out for us so far. We'll see. Maybe the biggest steal of the draft. Again, Washington, Jesus Christ. Colleton, but Ilya Protas. Like, my God.
That's a really good one. I forgot about Protas. You're right. Yeah. Now, that one's a bit tricky because I'll be like, we didn't watch that much of him, right? So
didn't watch enough. Yeah.
I didn't watch. I basically watched 2 games of him.
Yeah, same.
Early in the season. So one of those situations where we just didn't get to, didn't get to go back. And
he looks incredible in the OHL. Like he looks like he's going to play in the NHL next year.
He looks like what he did. His brothers did the same thing. They make jumps. Those Protas brothers. There's always a. I will always say this. I say this every season to anybody who listens. There's always a Belarusian. There's always a Belarusian. You just got to go find them.
Yeah,
the country's underrated. The country can produce talent. They have limited resources over there, and their junior leagues are. Belarus Vishaya is difficult to watch at times, depending on what teams you're watching. But hey, that's how I found Klimovich. I don't know if he'll play, but I sure saw him there. I was like, oh, probably man, not. Maybe he's something. Nikita Tolopilo just won his first game recently. Nikita Tolopilo out of Vancouver. That was one where he looked the part even when he was younger, to be honest. I don't think enough people had seen him. But Tolopilo might actually end up a decent quality backup here for a long time.
Yeah, so Protas, it's crazy. Like he scored 14 goals last year, and look at him this year.
Same issues too, his foot speed, right? Just like his brother. That was a big part of it, I know.
Yeah, his brother's foot speed looks a lot better now than it did when he was in Prince Albert. I'll tell you that. At times Protas looks better than Greentree on Windsor. So
that's surprising. That I wouldn't say. Greentree's had a heck of a season though, but that's it's pretty surprising how good Protas has been for sure. Yeah. But Washington is, we talked about this before. 2019 class, Washington came out of that class looking like Burke did back in '99 with the Sedin twins. Like what they pulled in 2019 is the most underrated thing that doesn't get discussed in media because media has no understanding of scouting. But like. That should be highlighted and respected more than almost anything else in the last decade of doing this. Like what they pulled off in 2019 is the heist. Like it is unbelievable what they got out of that draft.
You want to mention what they did just so people who don't?
Oh, so Connor McMichael, Ilya Protas, and who's the one they took in the second? He's not playing with them anymore, but he plays in Anaheim. Big power forward. I've discussed him actually with some of their staff. So I can't remember off the top of my head, but he still plays in the NHL, just not with them. But to get two bona fide top 9 forwards that look like 60-plus point players in that draft class in the top 3 rounds is staggering. It's unbelievable what they did.
Oh,
Brett Leeson.
Connor McMichael, first round, 25th overall, Connor McMichael. Brett Leeson, 56 overall.
Yeah, and then Protas in the third.
91st overall, Alexei Protas.
That's untouchable. Nobody's touching what they did in that class.
Yeah, so looks pretty good for them. But yeah, like Washington, they're probably the better, like the most well underrated scouting staff in the NHL. Every year they seem to get like really good underrated players, and they have the best probably AHL franchise to develop players.
They have the best. AHL's in the AHL, Hershey Bears are the best development staff in the world. That's the best organization in the AHL for the last decade plus. So that it's just Washington has the right system. They also have some of the best goaltending evaluation, best goaltending development as well. Like Washington is as real as it gets. That organization is one of the most maybe underrated. I think you maybe even say underrated organizations in hockey. Yeah. Unbelievable what they accomplish.
Yeah, they're adding Ryan Leonard to the team. Andrew Crystal had like 500 points this year in the WHL.
Crystal's a dynamic playmaker for sure.
Yeah, and last year's draft looks pretty good with Parasek, Hudson. Hopefully Muggley gets going. Ilya Protas, Madico.
Oh, ridiculous class. Yeah. Ridiculous class. Yeah. They did unbelievable.
Yeah.
They're one of the few teams where if they draft a player where we don't have him or we had him low, I'm worried. I think we're in a lot of trouble. They're one of the franchises where I'm concerned with it.
All right. Well, I just mentioned Ryan Leonard. The next question might be about him or other players. So the question is from Jason. Who are you most excited to see amongst all the young prospects that just signed their entry-level contract? So there's a lot. Ivan Demidov, Alexander Nikishin, Ryan Leonard, Jimmy Snuggerud. I'm going to miss a lot. I'm just going on top of my head here, but those are the four major ones. Zeev Buium, I forgot about him. Anyway, there's a lot I will say based on game one of Ivan Demidov in Montreal,
It's a good
uh,
game.
I'd say it might be him. I'm excited to see Nikishin. I don't think he's going to play in the regular season. He might have to wait for the playoff for him, but I'm really looking forward to watch him, and obviously, and I guess Buium also might have to wait for the playoff. I don't think they played him yesterday. Yeah, so there's a lot of prospect, but I'd say probably Demidov and Nikishin for me. To me, they're probably the top two player not playing in the NHL this season. You can add like Buium and Leonard to that list, but those two Russians were really really good in the KHL. I mean, Demidov was his first year, but Nikishin has been the best defenseman in the KHL the past 3 seasons. So he's really impressive. So looking forward to see him in the playoff. What about you, Brad? Anybody really sticking out for you as you're most excited to watch come playoff?
Well, it's one of those things where Levshinov's in the NHL, and now we get a chance to see Boom in the NHL. I really want to see a head-to-head. Like, I want to contrast that and see where we're at with it, because we were very high on Boom and we dropped Levshinov down. So I wonder what that's going to look like to us now. That's huge for me. I love Chicago's staff. They've been awesome from the people I've talked to in their organization. But this is one I hope we get right, where I hope Boom looks the part for sure. That's an important one for us because he dropped outside the top 10. So hopefully we got that one right because obviously Cole Hudson, we dropped way too far. Yeah. Way too far. So hopefully that one comes back to us. Also, it's awesome to see Demidov in Montreal. Kovalev was there. I just feel like that, or it's just better with the Russian. That's awesome. Like a superstar Russian in the Habs it's just, and the fact that they're in a playoff position, and we'll see. We'll find out tonight what happens. But it's just better for hockey when the Habs are doing well and when they have superstar talent in their organization. I just think it's way better for hockey. So I'm huge into the Demidov movement here.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that first game in the NHL, and he's like by far the best player on the ice. It's like
he looks very comfortable.
It's great for him. I don't know if it's great for the team because it's not a good look. Anyway, we'll see if they. Hopefully they do make it, because it'd be fun to watch Demidov more games in the playoff, and see. Hopefully, like, he gets moved on to the first power play and play with better players than he did in game one. But
anyway. Carolina is sitting some of their starters.
Yeah,
there's some but they got Bradley Nadeau coming up. Nadeau has scored a lot this year. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. Should be interesting. Anyway, if you're watching this, like, this is useless for you because you know the result already. So, all right. Next question. That was a question we got like maybe 2 months ago. What is your take on Alexander Zakharov, Russian prospect for the NHL draft?
Zarovsky? Alexander Zarovsky?
Zharovsky, sorry. Yeah.
Okay. I was like, Zakharov, we got to go back to the drawing board. We got to pause this and go watch some Russian we don't know.
Actually, I think it was a Belarus name that was played with Andrei Kostitsyn. That's why I think I
that's the memory. Okay, Andrei. Back now with the Belarusians, Kostitsyn brothers.
Yeah, Zarovsky. He had a pretty good season in the MHL. We're not gonna go too deep here on analysis because we're gonna do it again in June in more details here. But he's an interesting one because he's got like real talent, but there's some part of his game that gives us like a bit of a pause and ranking him too high. But I think he could be one of those guys that in 4 or 5 years you look back, you're like, wow, why did this guy go in the late second? Or I don't know where he's going to go in the draft, but let's say he goes in the late second or early third. Maybe teams will look back like, well, we should have gone with that guy like before. Or maybe he just doesn't play because maybe the lack of compete is, stop him from really reaching the NHL and playing full time. So yeah, I love the skill, but I'm a bit concerned about the skating a bit and the compete. So and the pace. So that's a bit my quick take on Zarovsky.
Yeah, he's incredibly talented. Looks quote unquote new to hockey. I think the way to say it, he's very green. Rookie in the MHL, his first year in the MHL, and he's in the weaker division. So it's one of those situations where talent-wise, top 32 all day, like unquestionably talent-wise. But there is a tremendous amount of augmentation that needs to occur within his game to make it. And we will break that down and discuss where he needs to modify his game and why in our final ranking. We'll break him down in great detail for sure.
All right. We got 2 more questions. So what was your evaluation of Kieron Walton and Kevin He last year? And what is your opinion of them this year? So we did touch a bit on Kevin He and Walton earlier in the podcast, but so we had those guys pretty. I mean, Kevin He, we had him mid-40s, I believe, on our final list, and Walton, I think, was in the top 60. So
we push back that far?
Yeah, I mean, I could check, but I think for sure Walton was like between 55 and 60, I would say. And Kevin He, I believe, was 45 or 46. Anyway, well, Walton, we can start with Walton. Last year, I mean, he was barely on the ice. Like a lot of games, he was under 10 minutes per game. Seems to be like a thing in Sudbury. Like Nathan Villeneuve was also not playing a lot in the first half of the season. Got better in the second half, and Walton just didn't really play. And then this year, he was their best player. So I wonder what will have like happened to him in his draft year if he actually played more. Because he's really interesting. Like he's 6'6". He's got like legit skill. He moves well on the ice. I guess the concern back then, and it still is a bit, is like to compete sometimes is up and down. So that would be a bit the concern, but like he looks quite good in the OHL this year. And that thing with 6'6" player like him, like they're only gonna get better. The skating is gonna get better, their skill gonna get better. Like it's always a bit of a long-term project with those guys. So when he's 22, 23, 24, like he might look like real good if he fixes some of the issues that he has. So yeah, I think the Jets did really well in the draft with Walton in the 6th round. That's a heck of a pick by them. And Kevin He in the 4th round, again, that's a really, really good pick by them. Listen, like you guys should know that Brad is the biggest Kevin He fan on the planet.
And Kieron Walton too.
Yeah,
give me my due here, okay? I make a lot of mistakes, but I got those.
Well, I do receive a lot of text message about Kevin He from Brad. So, but I mean, Kevin He is super fun to watch. Like he's like super entertaining. Yeah, we like him in his draft year. Went way later, like I think late 4th round, mid 4th round. Very fun player to watch. Skates well. He plays physical. He's in the face of people. Like he drives people nuts. So Brad, maybe you want to touch on Kevin He and Walton here.
Sure. Yeah. So very different players drafted for different reasons. So I'll start with Kevin He. The thing with Kevin He is like from everybody I've talked to in the actual industry is like you get really 2 massive differences of opinion. One is that he'll be a very useful depth energy winger that gives your team a boost, can put the puck in the back of the net, give you 15, 20 goals. The other is he'll never play because he's not smart enough to play. Yeah. I obviously don't fall in that category because I've seen enough adaptation from him in his initial draft season to think that once he is removed from Niagara and put into an actual structure in a pro system, he'll be forced to open up his playmaking at a higher rate than he currently does. I love the kid's takeover mentality, but it is true that he does play an incredibly individualistic style of hockey at this time. He plays very similarly to like a top-end Russian forward. He plays like he's in the NHL. But what I love about it is he can get away with it in the O. That's hard to do. That means you're really talented and you're gifted and you can do a whole lot. The first 3 months of the season, he was completely and utterly dominant. He was unbelievable. He was doing, like, one of his goals was legitimately Alex Ovechkin, the reverse spin pass to himself in the neutral zone off the boards. Do you remember that famous goal Ovechkin scored? Yeah. He one touched the puck back to himself off a spin-off. He did the exact same thing and scored on the breakaway. It was against Ivan Kovic as well. Or no, it wasn't. Ivan Kovic got into a fight, was removed from the game. It was the backup. But either way, he does things that are spectacular. He's unbelievably dynamic. He just needs to rein his game in and recognize down the line why passing the puck to his teammates can help set him up better for his goal scoring down the road. I think it will come. Some people don't. So either way, for a 4th-round pick, spectacular pick by Winnipeg. For Kieron Walton, so Kieron Walton, this is the thing. If you look, didn't play a ton, as Jerome mentioned, but when you looked at him when he was playing up to his ability, his peak performances last season, you could take sequences from him on the ice and say that fully translates. And that's what got me so excited, because this is for all you younger individuals or people who want to understand scouting better. This is a good trick for bigger forwards. I'm obsessed with large forwards too, because I find them so difficult to evaluate because you have to take in their growth rate into consideration at a different degree than smaller players. So like Tage Thompson, Elmer Soderblom, Kirill Dolzinkov, they're all different, and the way that they had to develop their games is all different. But one thing that I think everybody should do when it comes to 6'5" plus forwards is you basically take their initial draft season and you say it's their -1. Do not give them the equivalency of a forward who's 6 feet tall who's fully coordinated. It's not fair to them, and it's not going to be what you see is not what you're going to get. Where with these smaller forwards, what you see, like Ivan Demidov, we knew what we were going to get. That's why he was a highly touted blue chipper, right? Because what he was translate. He was already fully functionally coordinated and a strong player. Well, it wasn't that strong, but you know what I'm saying. So it's one of those situations with Kieron Walton. It was nothing like that. He was janky. There was at times coordination issues depending on what he was trying to do. But at the same time, he was already showing me some really advanced playmaking. He was not a dumb player. He had some spectacular plays off the walls. Jerome, I remember sending you some clips of his down-low ability, his ability to drive possession at a ridiculously high rate, theoretically. Right? And so what it came down to was a mental switch. We talk about this all the time. The Oscar Olausen, the Ryan Suzuki, the Edward Chalas of the world. If they flip the switch, then you get something special. If they don't flip it, then they bust, right? The giant bust potential. That was why Kieron Walton got drafted so late. It wasn't the potential of the player. It wasn't the minutes that were limited, I don't think. It was the fact that there was a mental switch that needed to be flipped. This was a player who did not assert himself and was not consistent as a hockey player at all. Obviously, Winnipeg got through to him. Mad props to their development staff. They sat down with the kid. They told the kid what he needed to hear. And I'll give Kieron Walton full marks. He obviously listened because he became a dominant force in nature. He realized he could take over the game. What I think some people misunderstand, though, is this didn't just come from nothing. It wasn't like, oh, he just wasn't gifted or skilled or this is out of nowhere. No, it was always there. It was just fragmented. He needed to understand, much like Kevin He does, he needed to understand how to implement and assert his game in a way that would allow him to take over at the O. And he's done that, and now Winnipeg is looking like they've already got one of the best drafts out of last year. Like, you're getting probably a middle six monster out of Kieron Walton there. He's not the most physical player. He's a finesse-oriented kid, but it will hold. I think he's going to play. So incredible draft by Winnipeg.
Yeah. I didn't have a lot of pick. They had like Alphonse Frey in the 2nd round, and then Kevin He, and then Walton in the 6th round. They had Marcus Loponen in the 5th round. So they might, like, if everything goes well, they might get 3 NHL players out of those 4 picks. So
yeah, I mean, that's fantastic work.
That's a big thumbs up for their scouting staff if that happens. All right, last question we receive, and it's a very niche question. Who's the most physical German prospect in this year's draft? When Brad did receive that question, so my first reaction was like, well, it's Rio Kaiser, big monster German D who plays in the OHL now. But Brad, I know you have a different answer, so I'll let you go on this question.
Well, like hit rate speaking, it's David Lewandowski. But like long term, if Rio Kaiser physically fills out and is willing to hit more often, it should be Kaiser because he's 6'7" and a monster. So those would be the two primary answers. But there's a couple of Europeans we go through that are that have had pretty
Euro based. We'll just mention the guys playing in Europe that maybe are, if you're looking for physical Euro players. We can start with Limitov in Russia, Prokhorov in Russia, Theodor Ahlqvist in Sweden. Anybody else, Brad? That
Wojtek Sahash? Wojtek Sahash will hit.
Yeah,
on occasion. Looking through one of my overagers, Oleg Mastrenko. I'll never give up on him. He hits. Here's an underrated one. This player will get drafted, so all of you remember the name. He will get drafted. One of your organizations will take him, and that's Jan Skok. Jan Skok out of Czechia. He hits everything. He's a physical defensive defenseman with a heck of a cannon on the back end there, and he'll get drafted for sure. And he's played up in extra league the entire season, and he is afraid of nothing. He'll hit everything. So those would be that's one of the dark horse ones for me. Who else is there?
Malte Vass from Sweden.
Malte Vass is another who will hit everything. Yeah, Malte Vass is a really good one.
Yeah,
those would be the standout ones to me that I'm looking at. I'm looking at the list right here.
I forgot one.
Yeah, those would be the big ones.
Eddie Gamborg from Sweden.
Gamborg, yeah.
If he does get to you, you're in trouble. Like, because he's not the best skater. So.
if he does, yeah. If you're slow enough for him to catch it, you're done.
But like he's like physically he's gonna hurt some people. Whether it's at the NHL level or in the SHL, we'll see about that. But like he's a real physical guy. Other than that, I don't really. I mean, we didn't name quite a few here, so
there's one other we can't talk about him because he's one of our hidden dark horses. So I have to wait until the end of the season. There's one other we'll talk about later. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's gonna wrap up this week episode, and also this is our last episode before June. So thanks everyone for watching this week, but all the other episodes that we have done, since October, September, anyway, 25 episodes, not bad. So we're gonna be back in June, like I said. We're gonna have more content in June, but we do need to focus a bit more on the book and the final rankings in the next month or so. So we want to take that time to like really focus on it. So, but don't worry, we'll be back in June with more draft content, and with the book out in June, we're gonna talk a lot about the book and the final rankings, and hopefully you guys enjoy our content in June. So Brad, maybe a last word for you before we go.
Yeah, just at the end, once those final rankings hit, look for us because we'll have tons of content. We're going to produce way more than we did even last season. Like the goalie pod alone, it's going to be 5 hours. Jerome's going to lose his mind. I can't wait. We're going to have a fantastic time with it. We're going all in. We'll make sure to break down every player very in depth and discuss the whole class and try to break it down in a way that really works.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in June.
Take care, everybody.